Oh, folks, how y'all doing? Now, folks, a lot of times there's a lot that we hear about the enemy. We hear an awful lot about the enemy. Now, of course, the thing about the enemy is they are, by definition, outside of us. Um, if, of course, by enemies we mean material enemies, real people who are attacking us, not character faults within ourselves. Therefore, in my mind, the critical thing to know is who is inside the circle of us, who belongs. Or, put another way, who is one of us? For once we know this, we know by simple application of logic who is not one of us. And among those not us, the enemy resides. That is, there are three groups of people in the universe: us, people outside of us, and the enemy, who are a subset of people outside of us. Any people that are quote unquote enemies within us aren't enemies, they're traitors, and they're even worse than enemies, but we'll address them at some other time. Now, many will counter that there's a great importance in knowing the enemy. However, we would counter that to have true power, true understanding of the universe, you must know yourself. You must understand who you are. For only in conquering yourself can you actually affect anything outside of yourself on a stable foundation. And once we have this true understanding of our own value, of our own vices, of our own virtues, only from this will any knowledge bring us profit about enemies or otherwise. We must have our internal house sorted before our external anything can even be attempted. Thus, the primary goal of nationalists must be to promote a clear understanding of who and what our identity entails and encompasses. For from this understanding of the sort of parameters of who is inside and who is outside the folk comes a stable foundation upon which to wage a successful struggle with our enemies. And remember, I'm not doing this so I can go down in glorious defeat. So, what does our identity entail? Our identity is rooted in our past, culturally and biologically. Our identity is firmly attached to a common understanding of what home, hearth, and heritage mean. Our identity is attached to our place in these families and in the community which is formed from the interaction of these families. Our identity is an outgrowth of the common organic bonds which our nations share among them, going back into the dim past of time. Who is included in this identity? The Western European Christian white people are the superset from which all Western white people derive. None of these ethnicities are the same. However, in a real sense, they all share in a common identity: white, Western, and Christian. This is both a biological and a cultural phenomenon. None of us are identical. None of us are interchangeable. However, we are all very similar, and we are all part of the rich, intricate tapestry that is this great superset identity. Once this identity, which is identical with the identity which was formerly called Christendom, has been revived as a clear concept in the minds of our people, once the desire to be this identity is expressed openly by our people, then no enemy will matter. For then none will stand before us. The false idols of civic nationalism will simply fade away. The false values of liberalism, materialism, cultural Marxism will simply vanish the same way that shadows are dispelled by bright light. And our enemies will fight at great disadvantage, for they prefer darkness and backstabbing, not frontward, direct-facing people who are concerted, organized, unified, and have a direct understanding of their purpose, of their place in the chain of existence, going back into time, going forward. These are not the kind of people that our enemy wishes to deal with. Our enemy wishes to deal with slaves, who bicker over money, who bicker over little political arrangements, who bicker over the minor things. But a thing our enemy fears most is a united Christendom coming back. The Christian concept of the united supranational state of white peoples that are one, that are organized along the principles that exalt our peoples. Now, again, none of these individual ethnicities are identical. Some of them even don't like each other. But we all do better together, and we are all on the same life raft. That's reality. So, once this identity is back, no enemy will matter in the least. Thank you.